how do you balance that risk, right? Of just, is it something that you think was innate to you? Or 'cause I know today, students a lot of times feel like this need, okay, I got to go to this job for 2 years and then this job for 2 years. Do you think that's changed, or do you
Yeah,
think it's still a good idea to allow for that serendipity to take place?
I think you should go with what your heart and desires are. So, for me, uh, I'm willing to, I'm still willing to take chances, and so I think you can actually. What is the downside? What's the downside risk? You take a chance. Especially when you're young, you can do. You don't have any obligations really. You don't have like kids to take care of when you're a student usually, and you can just go for it. And so, what's the downside? Have more experience. You get to see more of the world, or get to try out a new company, and or live in a new location. And so, there isn't much downside apart from when you've got good friends in a location, it's very difficult to move. And so it's I think the experiences you can get from life are in the end, there's you get more from your life from experiences, from the jobs, from the people you're with, from your family and friends, than you will ever get from money. And so I would never make a decision based on money, but I would make a decision based on gaining experience and gaining knowledge and learning.
Actually, that's very interesting you say that, because that's been a consistent theme of leaders saying focus on your slope, especially early in your career, right? The more slope you can have, the better opportunities you'll have longer term. And so
That's right.
that's the aspect of it. Not necessarily,
That's
I
right.
mean, money to cover your expenses, but like if you can learn somewhere, that's where you want to go.
That's right. And the other thing that I think is important is the job that you start in. So when you start in a job, you're more likely to stay in that same field or that same domain. And so it's quite important to choose what domain you want to be in when you start, because it's you can change later, and I've changed multiple times, but it's more difficult to change domain. And by domain, I mean like industry, for example, or whether you're in the software industry or biotech or another area. It's more difficult to change domain, and it's also more difficult to change the kind of job. So if you start in QA testing, it's harder to get out of that to go into engineering or to go to data science. And so it's better to like go with what you would be passionate about for the future, and try and live with that. Try and go for that. But one of the things that is important over time is that yes, the jobs do change, and the what the latest thing does change. And so it's always important to keep yourself up to date and keep yourself relevant, and to always be learning in one way, either learning on the job, which is the best way to actually take on projects that will you will learn more and you will learn about that area and you actually do it. That is the ultimate way.
Yeah. So if I hear you correctly, it's kind of identify the macro themes that seem to be long term trends. That's where you can find some resilience in your career, right? So that machine learning is going to be a 10, 15-year cycle coming up here.
And nowadays, I would spend my time on machine learning engineering or data system engineering or data science, moving into engineering. So those are the ones that I would focus on now. And there is a massive change and shift in the industry. And so as a student, you really want to learn things like large language models, which is what OpenAI is doing the ChatGPT based on. And so this is actually going to be a major change for the whole industry, not just computing, but everything. It's as big as the internet. It's as big as like the mobile phone coming about. And I haven't said this about other things like blockchain or cryptocurrency or other things, but this one is going to be a major one. It's going to change the productivity of all people, not just engineers, but people in product and sales and other areas. And so this one is really important one to get into, and it's also important to get into data science and machine learning at this stage, and
Yeah, so
computer
but
science. So like hardcore computer science. So systems engineering and building systems is also important. So for me, when I started, and I'm 54 years old now, and I started in computing when I was 16 years old. I can't even remember how long ago that was. That was 1970, 1985, 86. I got my first little computer, and I started learning about computing. So learning about computing at that day and age gave me a ticket to the world. I could go anywhere. Yeah, getting a degree as well is helpful. It really helpful, because then that's some proof and validation you've actually gone and learned the whole stuff, and you have like the resilience and staying ability to go and learn topics in depth. Uh, but that gave me a ticket to the world. It enabled me to go and get a job in New Zealand. Enabled me to go and get a job in Silicon Valley. And so it's really important to learn something else. So computer programming is one major one you want to learn. Machine learning and data science is another one. Those will give you tickets to any company in the world to do whatever you want.
one thing I think there's been a lot of like kind of doom and gloom about that whole idea of it, but my personal theory, and I'd love to get your thoughts. I think you talked about it a bit with a you did kind of an informal survey with other CTOs about the impact of AI and how it was increasing um, on average about 10 to 15% in productivity, but with some cases it was kind of 30, 40, even 50% more increase in the productivity of some workers. And so I almost liken to that to the idea that as a junior level engineer, again, obviously you have to have your good solid background, but that AI will actually pretty much be a boon to that entry level because it can almost power you up and give you the kind of years of experience or guidance that would take you a lot longer to learn yourself. And so I think there's actually a big opportunity for kind of entry level engineers now coming in as opposed to kind of this doom and gloom. But I would love to get your kind of thoughts on
Yeah.
that itself.
For junior engineers, the productivity increases between 50 and 100%, because a lot of the code can be auto completed, and the code generator can Copilot can generate code for you, so you're learning faster. Because when you're just starting, you're like, what is the function name? What's the object name? And so you need to learn like what to do. But with the code generator, it will know like what is the best way to do something. Hopefully, it can't do everything yet. It can't like structure a big amount of code and then figure out how to put it all together. But it is pretty good at doing auto completion of a smaller method and doing boilerplate code. And so that will increase productivity for junior engineers by 50 to 100%, and be open to becoming more productive and figuring out what tools are going to help you get there. Uh, in the past, we would like write code and then we'd like use a compiler to figure out where all the errors were. Now these co-pilots can figure out like where is the error in the code or where is the error in the SQL, and automatically change the code to correct it. And so it makes things much faster. It's still very good to know the language well, but you can become far more productive. And it can automatically generate test cases for you. Can automatically generate documentation for you. There's so many added benefits. So yeah, always be open to learning new tools and trying out new things.
Yeah, and I think what I found most interesting, even about kind of yourself as a person and a leader, was just again like how you've built a culture in your engineering team
Yeah,
around that. And I was wondering because I think leadership is something that doesn't often get discussed while you're in school, especially for people with technical backgrounds. So I was
yep.
wondering again, how did you kind of come to your leadership style?
So it's the first thing within a company is to understand what your culture is. So what is the definition of the culture? What's the definition of the values for the company as well? And so it's important to have some values for a company. So that's establishing like what is the culture you want the company to be. So for Pinterest, for example, we have values such as win or learn. So we have an experimentation culture, and you're either trying to win to build something that is better than what we had before, or you're going to learn from what you've done so you can use that to make something even better. We have a culture of put pinners first. Pinners are our affectionate name for our users. And so that means like put the customers first, understand the customers, be in the shoes of the customers and know their perspective and build for them. So to what I've done to set up the culture within data engineering within Pinterest is there are several things that I think are important. I think it's important to have high standards and high quality. And so I review every single design document within my organization. And I put comments in there, just partly to show that I've read it, but also to kind of stretch the writers to think a bit more. And so there's always feedback that can be given. And the way that I give feedback is I ask questions. So I might know the answer, and so often I do know the answer, but I don't want to prescribe exactly how to do it. What I want to do is like open the person's mind or push them a little bit further to think about, well, they were going for this bar, can they go for this bar, the higher bar instead? And so ask questions to, to help the person think about what are the alternatives. Ask them what are the pros and cons of doing one way instead of another way, uh, so that they can think about the context. Ask them like what are the requirements that the customer wants and we need for our systems, so that they truly do understand what they're building their system or application for. Uh, and so there's a bunch of questions that I will ask, and it depends on the design doc and what we're doing. But that's one area that is really important.
Just to close us out, I was hoping maybe could you give one quick piece of advice to someone in college or something that you would over-index on in college today? Is that more networking, relationship building, hanging out more with friends, whatever that is?
Yep. So uh, the advice I would give is so I remember when I was in college, the term networking was like, ooh, that's like just getting in contact with someone for the sake of increasing your network. But what networking really is being able to go and talk to people to find out more things and to offer them advice as well. So one of the best ways to get a job is to ask someone, can I find a little bit out more about your company or about your organization and what you do? Not even asking for a job. It's like an informational interview. You're going and you're trying to just get a coffee with someone or get a lunch and find out, see if that company is really interesting and see if you really want to invest your time, because it's a two-way street. You want to know that this is like a culture and a company that you want to be part of, and working on something that's really cool that you would enjoy doing, as well as them finding out, are you a good fit for the company culture and the team as well. So it's a two-way street. So if you have a number of these kind of set up, then what happens naturally is that if you're showing a lot of interest and motivation, then the person that you're meeting with is going to say, well, we actually might have this opportunity here that you could be good for. Would you be interested in applying? It's the best way to get a job. The most difficult way to get a job is to randomly apply through the black hole of the internet, hoping that someone is going to like your resume and want to interview. The chances of that happening are virtually nothing. So, just getting to know people like me, and also, having been around a little bit, have a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of can help people in their career direction, make some decisions. It's hard when you're like early as a student, knowing what job do I even want? What company would I even like to work for? It's very, very difficult because if you haven't done the internships, or if you haven't put a lot of thought into it, then it's difficult. Should I be working for a startup or a pre-IPO company or a really large company, or should I be working in consumer internet or enterprise computing or in machine learning or whatever, biotech, or whatever it's difficult to figure this out. And so by talking to people like myself, you can actually learn like what are the options, what are the different kinds of jobs and what they're like.